It's a big night, ladies and gentlemen of Northeast Florida. It's a big night because it's a big night anytime you get the first preseason depth chart released by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I have it right here. I will go over it in depth coming up in a matter of moments, give you my thoughts and my perspective. I got thoughts and perspective on something else, though, before we get there. Couple of surprises earlier today. Gregory Jr. released on the injured waived list. If he clears waivers, he'll revert back to IR. And the Jaguars cut Adam Gotsis earlier today. So Adam Gotsis gone, Gregory Jr. gone. Two guys that played in the regular season last year. Adam Gotsis played a lot in the regular season last year. I was somewhat surprised by both moves, particularly Adam Gotsis, but that goes back to what I've talked about the entire offseason. If you're willing to release Gregory Jr. and Adam Gotsis, two guys that made your 53-man roster last year, and you're willing to waive them prior to the first preseason game being played, it's a deeper football team than it's been in years past. There's more competition for those coveted 53 roster spots here in Jacksonville than there has been in years past. I've told you guys, defensive line, we saw it already today with Gotsis. I think offensive line, secondary, Gregory Jr. is an example of that. Wide receiver and probably safety are the ones that jump right to mind. They're going to cut guys, them being the Jacksonville Jaguars, are going to cut guys that you know. They're going to cut names that you're familiar with, and they're going to cut guys that have played regular season games for them. Because that's what happens when you improve the overall depth of your roster. It becomes harder to keep guys when you bring in suitable, if not better, replacements. And the Jaguars have done that. General Manager Trent Baalke has done that. This team is better. This team is deeper. And there is much more competition for this 53-man roster than, in my opinion, there's been since Trent Baalke arrived. And he's coming into year 4 as the general manager here in Jacksonville. It's a great thing to see. I love it. I don't love it for Adam Gotsis, and I don't love it for Gregory Jr. Again, the Gotsis one surprised me a little bit, but you draft Jordan Jefferson, right? You draft Mason Smith. You bring in Eric Armstead. You get Devon Hamilton. You got Roy Robertson-Harris, Jeremiah Ledbetter. I mean, you got guys now in the middle of that defensive line that you did not have in years past. That brings me to the depth chart that the Jaguars released earlier. And with this depth chart comes some interesting thoughts that I have. It's an unofficial depth chart, all right? It's a depth chart that's released on the 6th day of August. I think they're required to do it before preseason game number 1. I don't necessarily know how much stock I would put into some of this, just based solely on what I've seen. Now, again, there are rules as to what I can and cannot tell you as far as who's lining up where and who's lining up with whom. But I'll be flat out honest. It was a surprise that Mac Jones is already number 2 instead of C.J. Beathard. Not a surprise that that will ultimately be the case by September, but I was surprised Mac Jones was quarterback 2 on this depth chart on August 6th, based on what I've seen. So your starting offense, according to this right here, what the Jaguars released earlier, this is a 2 tight end situation. You would have Gabe Davis, Cam Robinson, Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morse, Brandon Sheriff, Anton Harrison, with Evan Ingram, Luke Farrell. Interesting. Luke Farrell is ahead of Brenton Strange, Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, and Brian Thomas. If you keep 6 wide receivers, which is the number we're all talking about, right? 6. The 3 wide receivers on the quote-unquote second team are Devin Duvernay, yes. Parker Washington, yes. And according to this, your sixth wide receiver would be Elijah Cooks. I probably agree with that right now. Your backup offensive lineman, Walker Little, is listed as the backup left tackle. Blake Hance, your backup left guard. Luke Fortner, your backup center. Cooper Hodges, your backup right guard. And Javon Foster, your backup right tackle. Of course, Foster is the rookie from Missouri. I don't have any issues there. Tank Bigsby, obviously, is your second-team running back. Dearness Johnson is your third-team running back. Among guys that I guess it was interesting where they were placed, Seth Williams and Tim Jones are your third-string wide receivers, along with Brevin Easton. And then Austin Trammell, Denzel Mims, and Joshua Cephas are your fourth-team wide receivers. Again, take it with a grain of salt, but I would have thought Cephas would have been a little higher in the wide receiver food chain than he is on this first depth chart of the preseason. Quickly to the defensive side of the ball, the defensive starters listed today: Devon Hamilton, Eric Armstead, Joshua Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker. Absolutely. Foye Oluokun, and then at the middle linebacker position, this is laughable, Chad Muma or Devin Lloyd. Give me a break. It's Devin Lloyd. Now, at the Sam linebacker position, remember they're going 4-3 this year. It's a change. That is where I believe Chad Muma probably is your starter. It says Chad Muma or Yasir Abdullah. In the secondary, Ronald Darby, Tyson Campbell. Your starting nickel, Christian Braswell. Interesting. With Andre Sisco and Darnell Savage listed as your starting safeties. So what does that mean? Well, it means Antonio Johnson is listed as a backup safety right now. Your backup D linemen are Jeremiah Ledbetter, Roy Robertson-Harris, and Trevis Gibson. Your backup corners are Monteric Brown and Amane Aruare. That is somebody I want to talk to, number 27 on the Jaguar roster. We've spent so much time talking about the young guys the Jaguars drafted. This kid, Amunuware, has come in and made a pretty nice impact very quickly. He's getting a lot of playing time out there. That's somebody that I want to talk to. Now, in releasing Adam Gotsis and Gregory Jr. today, the Jaguars added a couple of guys, including safety Adrian Amos. Now, Adrian Amos, and they also added Jonathan Marshall, a defensive tackle. Amos has started like 130 games in the National Football League. He's 31. He was in Green Bay for many years alongside Darnell Savage. Well, the Jaguars safety position is an interesting one because I think Amos, who was signed today, and Terrell Edmonds, who I'm actually going to talk to tomorrow after Jaguar practice, you're talking about two guys that combined have started well over 150 games in the NFL. But I think both guys are probably going to be struggling to make the 53-man roster. We'll see about Dewey Wingard's injury and how that affects things. But you got a lot of experience at safety, a lot of NFL games under your belt at safety that are just simply battling for a 53-man roster spot. I find that very interesting when it comes to this depth chart. Your backup corners, Jarian Jones and Tavon Campbell, along with Trey Flowers. Now, Christian Braswell being listed as the starting nickel catches me off guard a little bit, but I will tell you, Braswell's had a nice camp. Again, I don't know if Jarian Jones, if that's his natural position or if he's better outside, but I like what I've seen out of Christian Braswell. So take the depth chart for what it is. It's something to talk about. It's a conversation piece. Again, the Jaguars have to do it before preseason game number 1. I don't know how often or how much that will look like the actual depth chart that comes out in about a month, but certainly some things on there did stick out to me.
Hey, Nia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars. For even more coverage of the Big Cats, be sure to subscribe to 1010XL Jaguars.